What's the difference? It's just redoing the whole thing, and it's only doing the draft. Oh, okay, that's it, okay.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock, call the meeting to order. Rise to the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
Present.
Here.
Here.
Tyler.
Here. Yes.
Oh.
The motion to approve the agenda is presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Support.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Motion to approve the minutes of our October 9th meeting.
Make that motion.
I'll support.
Been moved and supported to accept the minutes from October 9. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public comment, Mr. Schmidt?
Yes, I do. Stand up there, is that right?
Sure.
And my question is this, I have a question about some of the people that if you'd like to read it aloud, that's a letter I wrote to the State Tax Commission, I appreciate it. Want to read aloud or want me?
Well, no, I'm going to read it first
Okay. Sounds good.
before I open my mouth.
Good idea.
I'm going to paraphrase, I'm not going to read it word for word. Essentially, it's a letter to the State Tax Commission regarding Chief of Police Ron Scott Barrett's assessment. And he's questioning that his assessment was reduced in 2013 from 1105 the year before. No, property taxes were 1105 the year before, 829 in 2013.
Larry, I'm gonna ask you right now, I'm gonna real quick interject before you go any further. Do we assess anything taxes? This committee right here?
No.
Then why are we talking about it?
Because I have.
No, I'm not talking to Mr. Schmidt, thank you.
Because a citizen has requested that we respond, that's why.
To what? I think
That I
that's to
don't
do
know,
the,
that I don't know yet, but,
the township assessment.
right.
It's like asking a question of the county that we don't have any bearing on any of
Right.
that, right?
If you read the letter aloud, it explains it. but-
Well, we're going down the road of circular logic here, but
Mhm.
Now, from this point, I guess I'd like you to explain what you're saying, or what you're asking for.
Well, what I'm asking for is how come he's allowed to have his taxes lowered about 204 from 2010 to 2011, when everybody else's taxes went up And also, if you look at the second page, maybe you flip over the second page, please. There's a copy right there that shows it. So why is he getting a deal and everybody else isn't?
Everybody else
Flip
is
it.
not getting it.
Why is he going from that price in 2010,
Because
2011?
in that year, there were several property owners that received deductions, and he was one of them.
Okay, go on to the next page. There's
Larry, why are you going down the rabbit hole?
Listen to it.
I mean, it's,
Hang on.
There's the assessment charge right there.
Yeah.
It's not a mobile home.
Did you check all 900 homes?
It's not a mobile home.
Yeah.
And it does have an attached garage. The garage is finished. There's a shed on the assessment cards that's never been on there. There's, the garage is finished, it has a cement floor in it. I mean, he's cutting a deal with the assessor, let's face it.
No, he isn't.
Yes, he
Larry,
is.
can I stop right there, because that is actually slander,
That is
and
slander.
I actually have a complaint filed with the state police on this, so if he wants to continue down this road, it's a recorded meeting, perfect.
It is recorded.
If you're claiming that I'm committing a felony,
I'm talking
that's slander.
to the president here. Thank you.
But I happen to agree with our chief.
Okay.
He has not been singled out, he's been treated like everybody else.
And why does taxes go from 2000 to 2011 when everybody else is going up? Why is it classified as mobile instead of a
Not
house?
everybody else's did go up.
But the assessor's card shows it mobile.
pretty confident we're at 2 minutes.
We don't have anything to do with it. You may want to address the assessor on why it went up.
I have, and she won't respond back.
Because
That's why I wrote the
not
state
everybody's
tax-
property
state-
taxes have gone up.
State tax commissioner.
Not everybody's taxes have gone up.
You're talking to the jury about why the judge had a court on this day. We don't know.
I'm just letting you know on public record that he's
Can I ask you a question?
way off. Sure, you may.
Why are you singling out Scott Barrett?
It's just the fact that he is singling out me.
No, you're not.
No. That's your opinion.
That's my opinion.
Okay, my opinion is no. He is.
But you have come to this board several times with one major complaint, Scott Barrett.
No.
Why?
It was
No,
about
no,
the
no,
water.
no. Yeah, I'm saying, in the past, you want to go back to the records, every time you come in front of this board, you put out a complaint against Officer Barrett.
I have.
Yep.
I've made a complaint about the water bill, but I never made one about Scott
Oh,
Barrett.
no, you have,
Oh, I have? Well, you pull it up and show it to me, because I'd like to see, okay?
all you gotta do is go back to the records.
I deny.
I don't know, you can do that very well.
I know you deny. I mean, if it's a joke, it's a joke, but his tax is not assessed like everybody else. And then the question-
That is your opinion. You voiced your opinion.
Okay.
We've heard your opinion.
Mhm.
Your time is up.
Okay. The other, could I say 1 minute, just one more thing?
Sure, go ahead.
I got a letter from, the village about a car on my property about a year ago. I had to remove a $500 fine. Now, there's 10 around the village right now that are fall, within a year have been abandoned, no plates, no insurance. But they're not touched, just me. Now, would you explain to me what that is?
Not just you, we handled
We're
several.
working on all of those.
On 10 of them?
They've all
I
received
submitted to the village, an email about 2 months ago, and none of them have anything happened. I'm still sitting there.
None of these cars have been moved.
You've heard of it.
You've seen this person.
I have seen that person along with other people.
Then people up there all know reality. If I tell them all that,
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
what are you gonna do? Cover them?
What do you want?
Well,
You want that?
thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
Any other public comment?
About him or?
No.
You got something?
You're on, jump on.
Yeah, I got a comment about a water bill that I received in the spring. And Sam come in and brought to our attention that our water bill is, for 1 quarter was 3 times higher than it normally is. So he suggested we might have a leak, and he comes out, and they came down and went and looked, and they found the leak. We had 2 toilets leaking. We normally inspect our units once a year, or when somebody moves out, we go through and change the batteries on the fire alarms and filters if they come into play, and we look for leaks. But these were toilet leaks, and we have a lot of senior people living there, and people that are handicapped in a way. And so when they hear something, and in fact, one guy, if you asked him if the water leaks, he didn't hear what you asked even. So it's hard to find. But anyway, so we got the bill, And I sat in, and then she sat in, and we didn't think we should have to pay for it. And nothing happened. And then I was told, I guess I have to pay for it, so we paid for it in, I think September, we paid the bill. But I think my big intention is for 30 years, I've had to create my own pressure because the village hasn't supplied me pressure for my water. So I've been paying for electricity for 30 years to pump enough pressure so we can run a toilet, run sinks. And I've never complained about that, but all of a sudden I'm being charged $900, which is a lot of money, for 3 months for a water bill, and I think I should have some relief on it.
Anybody care to comment?
What was the problem? The leaking toilet was just running?
The leaking toilet, I don't know, I'm not familiar with
Can I
that.
chime in here, Ron?
Yeah, go ahead.
What it was Ron had a renter, which he said was about an 86-year-old gentleman. And of course, when I walked into the apartment, I heard it running immediately. That guy could not, when I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He didn't even know I said a word. And that's what it was. It was a ball cock assembly that was broken, the water just puking right out it, going right out through the stool.
But also, Sam, I want to clear up about the thing about if I'm responsible for the water pressure or not. I think at that time, I think me and Sam went and looked and we shut our tanks off and see if we, at the time he thought we should have the pressure, enough pressure. We turned the tanks off and we didn't have enough pressure, that was in the spring.
He's got a booster pump, is what he's got.
Booster pump, we've had it for 30 years.
Pardon?
So when we first built the apartments, they run the water in, I'm assuming I got water, right?
It's enough.
Get them all done and ready to rent, turn the faucet on, the water just drips out of it. I don't, it's more in a drip, but I mean, you really can't function. So we had to put booster tanks in, and we still have to use them today.
Yeah, he actually has 2 storage tanks and a pump.
Is
To
that-
boost his
is that
pressure.
Is that different than anybody else?
No, Nate and Robin Summers would be in the same predicament in order to get their water pressure because they're so far up the hill, that's all. And Ron's, far enough up the hill over here that at the time, we had 1 water tank and that's what they did.
I think, with that, I know we're up the hill. How far you said the only was up the hill?
Pardon?
Who else was up the hill?
Nate and Robin Summers,
They're up quite a ways.
yeah, they're up quite a ways.
Yeah.
And there's other places in town where if your water, we'll go back to that loss of PSI per foot of rise. And that's why you had to have a booster pump.
Does I wonder if where the Simonsons live, do they get enough pressure? Because they're up every bit as high as me or higher.
I cannot answer that, Ron. I can tell you they got no more than you would have if you did not have a pump. Because they would be a little bit higher in elevation.
No, we try to watch for any leaks. We keep track of our apartments, we keep them up. As I say, we got elderly people in there, so it creates a challenge at times.
No, it's been my experience in the years that I've sat on this board that we have not made any concessions to any water customers for their own leaks. I don't know if there's extenuating circumstances here or not, but my inclination is to give it back to the water committee and have them review it and see if, make a recommendation to the full
I
council.
understand. But what about the electric for the pressures? Do you think this is my complete responsibility? I don't know how much electricity it uses, but it's been for 30 years. It's been exactly 30 years I've been there.
I guess that's something else the committee would have to determine. If that's an extenuating circumstance that nobody else in the village has, then,
There is other people that have that.
yeah.
Brian and Kathy almost need one. They're high enough.
That's why he's not really clean every day, huh?
So
All right,
that's what we'll do from
Okay.
this end.
thanks for listening to me.
You bet. Any other public comment? I don't think anybody else is public. so. Police report, Scott?
Thank you. Hopefully everybody got a chance to look at the report. keep me pretty busy. We're more complaints now than we were last year, so I think last month I did the statistics, and I'll give you another breakdown next month. We are probably running in the 20-25% range as far as complaints more than last year, so. Nothing further other than what's listed.
Anybody have anything for Scott? Sam?
You guys should have my DPW report, I forgot what's on it, I don't have a copy of it. Biggest thing that we're kind of behind this year a little bit, and the reason being is the water lines down to the camping park. They really set me back a long ways. And we're plowing a lot of snow right now.
There's one on the table.
The brand new pickup is broke at my house, will not start. So I gotta call Ford Motors in the morning and get them to tow it to Charlevoix. Any questions?
Well, that water service at the campground, Sam decided to do it himself because Tri-County gave us a bid of about $50,000.
They estimated about 50 grand for it. So I said at that point, you know what, well, we're gonna do this ourselves.
Huge savings to us.
And we had an old 2-inch galvanized line that was broke there, and the backside of the campground has always been wet. Well, we found out why, because they utilized the water lines, as it turned out, when it was a trailer park, mobile home park, and all the lines went up over top of the hill at the campground. All the way up to the top of the hill, and that's how they got water to them. I don't know why they did it, the way they did it. All that stuff's eliminated, everybody's been put on individual service lines hooked to big 10-inch mains. So, any questions?
Thank you. Kevin?
Well, first I want to thank everyone on the board, especially Rachel and Sam and Brian and Rob. Number one, for you guys for hiring me to take over the campground, but the immense amount of work and help that all of you did to kind of bring me up to speed and get things taken care of at the campground. We finished closing up everything, bathrooms, cleaning out all the fire pits. Rachel did a phenomenal job getting the new reservation system up and running with our new sites listed. The new rates are in the system now. Might get some complaints this next year because some people did pay their bill on the old rate. And so they're gonna have a balanced bill when they come in this next summer. So again, we'll probably get a little bit of chirping about it, but that's the price, and we're still cheaper than anybody else out there. Brian and I are donating a fire pit to the manager's site that Sam went out and picked up at Ready Rock and had it delivered, so we will have that installed prior to the season starting, and that'll stay permanently at the manager's site from here on out. And then we're going to be using your fire pit ring down at the bottom, and we're going to have flowers planted in it. Okay, so kind of something that your son did for you. So finally, I got two more things. I had a conversation with a biking group. I called him, and I had said that the campground would be available the last weekend in July, anytime in August, earlier in June. He said that wasn't going to work for them. And so he said, but what would work for him in 2021 is July 6th through the 10th. To which I said, you know, I've had people coming up for 30, 40 years during that week, and unfortunately, that's not going to be a good week for us. So I said, but again, we'd be more than happy to entertain your group in June or August, end of July. And I said, and while we're at it, I said, how often would you guys be coming back? He said, well, we'd have you on once every 3-year rotation. So I just said, I would discuss that with you guys, but honestly, you know, I wouldn't want to put anybody out that's been coming up for 30, 40 years for a group that's only planning on coming once every 3 years. And so I just left it with him that probably wouldn't work. If it did, I would call him back. And finally, let's see, year end was kind of nice. Our year end bookings were up by around anywhere from about 12 to 13%, and our revenue was up over last year by another 12%. So that almost paid all of our water. And so looking with our rate increases, we should be able to do real well at the park this next year and hopefully pay for the things that we're doing. So thank you again.
Thank you again.
Don't you have the right
to say who's gonna be at the park at that certain time.
Well, right, yeah, but the thing about it is when you've got people that have been coming up generationally and they have booked for 2 weeks at a time, that July, time period from the first
Right,
of July
I do
to.
understand that.
Right, I really don't feel it's a good,
It's not a good policy to let
policy
them
to
come in.
disrupt that, and then we would risk maybe them never coming back again. And we're in this for business, and it's just not good business sense to kick somebody out 1 week for every 3 years.
Right,
When they've been coming,
That's
year.
that's one of the busiest weeks of the summer.
And
absolutely.
they, yeah, and I just said, we would love to entertain you, but this is what we can do. And so he said it probably wouldn't work out for them. I said, well, that's a decision, whatever you need to make is fine, but I said we would be more than happy these other times. And so,
Yeah, I think
I'm left
you're
it up to
right.
him.
I absolutely agree.
Okay.
I think our product is good enough that we don't have to bend over to those types of things.
It may benefit them and their bikes and the traffic if they did do it all weekend.
Well, right.
Instead of a
Right.
And we'll be submitting one more thing, is our activities will be on our calendar on the website that I'll submit to Rachel some of the campground activities that we're gonna be having this next year. I have May, June, and July just about done that I'll submit to her, and she'll put that on the website so that people can see what kind of activities we're gonna be having, through the summer at the campground.
Some correspondence that I'm aware of, some committee reports, streets, sidewalks, Lyle,
I don't have anything.
sewer and water, Leila.
No, nothing that, Sam does a good job.
Law enforcement, Bill.
Let's start pretty well covered everything.
Finance personnel, Ryan.
Halloween. My wife and I did Halloween, we handed out cider and donuts, and the weather was bad. We didn't get rid of a third of what we ordered. The donuts just don't go at all anymore. I couldn't take them back to the store, so I gave what we had left to the food pantry. And next year, we'll have to figure out to do some other activity, give away something, because it's just not going anymore, so. But we got a year to worry about that, so that's all I have.
Right.
Kathy covered campground, and I assume Jennifer's here to talk about the pavilion, right?
Yeah, I assume.
So I will acquiesce to Jennifer about the pavilion. That's it.
Okay. The only thing I had to report on since the last meeting, I was invited to tour our jail in Antrim County Sheriff's Office. And then from there, hop a bus and go down to Wexford County's jail, which is a 2-year-old facility that they have built, which has problems. But I guess what I learned from all of that, I've never been in jail, so I didn't know what the situation was down there. And I guess from what I saw in that day's time, I agree with the sheriff and his entourage that they do need new facilities. And I think that they'll be lobbying the county residents for such sometime in the near future. But I think it's more, to me, it's more of a safety concern than anything else. They are crammed into every nook and cranny in that place. And if it was me working there, I wouldn't work there. And I'm sure that it's difficult for those that do. The morale is good. I mean, I don't think it's stopping them from doing their job, but it certainly is not enhancing their performance by any stretch. And they just don't have the technology that's required in those environments today, and I think they need that. Now, what they are going to propose, I have no idea, but I'm sure that was the whole purpose of county commissioners. They invited township supervisors and village presidents, and I think I was the only village president there. I think there was a few township supervisors for the tour of this jail, but they didn't go south. Only county commissioners went to the Wexford County jail. Anyway, I'm in favor of a new jail. And I'm not one to spend tax money, but I think that's,
Oversight.
that wasn't even discussed. I mean, that, it was just a matter of looking at what's there and compared to what a brand new facility would look like, which their roof is leaking like a sieve at that new
How
facility.
old is that jail?
Our jail,
No, the one in,
Wexford, 2 years old.
and then, but what about ours then?
And ours,
Good.
4 years.
Huh?
I don't think it's,
40?
yeah,
He was added on to the big add on
Yeah.
about 4 years.
Seventies.
Kind of a dismal place anyway.
Who was the contractor on the Wexford place? Just, maybe we
uh,
should keep that in mind.
they were taking names, so, I mean, it's not a good situation.
I think there's some lawsuits involved, I think I've read where there's already some with the contractor.
It's too bad for him.
Architect. Engineering firm.
Their county administrator is Janet Koch, who worked for our county, worked for us.
Worked for us.
So she's right in the middle of all of that. She was there for our tour, so it was good to see her. She's a sharp gal. That's all I have. So. Approval of the bills, we have prepaids of $10,428.04, payroll of $7,055.72, payables of $23,434.26, for a total of $40,918.02.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills as presented.
Support.
Been moved and supported, any further discussion? Roll call vote?
Chapman.
Yes.
Clark.
Here.
Lovelace.
Yes.
Lovelace.
Yes.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Eckert.
Yes. New business, not very much here, other than we've got to start thinking about next year's budget. Spoken to Rachel a little bit about it. Found out today our 101 general fund has a fund balance of $339, but there's about $50,000 that will come out of that if our pavilion ever gets built.
How much will come out for the pavilion?
I think we, about 690 total, but we've already taken 30 out, and we got about 60 left, so. And major street fund balance is $145,256, with nothing major in the works right now. Our local street budget is $302,654, with nothing in the works. We're hoping that we can find some grant monies to do some projects next year.
We have the sidewalk grant.
We do have sidewalk grants. EDA, no fund balance, but they have 21,000 in there, and we're gonna be spending that on banners for light poles, most of that. So it's gonna be a good use from my perspective. Campground has a fund balance of over 22,000. We were in debt last year, we paid that debt off. Sewer's fund balance is $122,085. The equipment fund has about $75,000 in it. Oh, I'm sorry, water fund had $75,835. And the equipment fund has $83,945. So I think we're in good shape.
I have a suggestion on the budget.
Yes.
Apparently, I think you had a budget for Rachel to go to college. I understand she can't pay for her next step at college, and I think she's been a big asset to the work here she's done for the village. I think she should be rewarded. It can't be a lot of money, which is out of budget money for her college and her next degree she's trying to receive.
It's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
And we think she's doing a good job too.
I do too. Well, I think she should be helped further with her education.
I think it's a good idea.
I agree.
She's been going on her own. I see her beautiful, you're a lot of hours.
Yes, she does.
It's been a lot of work.
I'm gonna have another suggestion too, with respect to hers, but I'm not gonna bring that up tonight, when we get further into the budget. Beyond that, we'll have probably this information for everybody next month to go over before our January meeting. And then February is our meeting where we approve the budget for our new fiscal year starting March 1st. We're down to action items. We have 2 trucks, 2014 pickup truck, a 93 or 4 plow and sander. The program was initiated every 3 years to replace that pickup and sell the old and buy the new. Hopefully that saves us maintenance issues. And I guess the action items, the question is, do we want to sell these? And if we do, how much should we be charging? Any suggestions?
And don't put the old one up for sale right away,
Yeah,
'cause
we gotta wait till we
we
get.
gotta wait till we find out what's wrong with the new one. I'm driving the old one.
Understood.
On the 14 truck, I talked to a gentleman that is in the used car business, used truck business, and he told me that truck is probably worth about 15,000, and the plow is probably worth 5.
No.
Talked to the former lieutenant from
Plows now?
Powell, Michigan, and he said that he was in charge of that at Hull, and he found that it was best to send them to the auction. He said the auction sells them for more than he could ever get for them in the public, and they charge a flat fee.
Yeah.
Do you know what they charge?
Where's the auction? The state auction?
Yeah,
What did we do last time when we sold?
We just went on Kelly's Blue Book and come up with what we thought was an estimated fair price and said, first one with the money buys it.
Yeah, just advertise.
And that's how we got rid, actually 2 of them we sold that way.
Yeah.
And we got rid of them immediately, and we were all happy with the price that we got.
I think this time of the year, with the way the winter's starting, I don't think we're gonna have any trouble getting rid of Sam's old truck.
Probably not.
Local. We can put it on Marketplace or whatever that thing is, and at least give it a try. Take some pictures and.
I think you definitely want to set a minimum price.
Larry and I talked about that.
But you have the right to accept or reject too.
We have to set them in, we're not gonna give that truck away.
The 94 plow and sander, we can give that away?
Pardon?
It's like we can give that one away?
No, that's actually, we paid just about $20,000 for that Monroe sander, so I'm thinking we'll probably, I'll get with, once you guys decide how you wanna do it, and I think the best thing to do is put it in Michigan Truck Trailer Magazine,
Sam told me
advertise it in it and get, and
Sam told me last week when I asked him, because I drive by that every day and I just see that truck just sitting there, and he said, that sander's probably worth $10.
I'll bet we'll get 10 grand for
The
it.
truck's probably worth nothing,
Right.
but the sander's.
If we take the sander and keep the sander, we're gonna be sitting with the truck, I can tell you that. Whoever buys it's gonna buy it for the sander, not the truck. That Monroe sander is a good sander.
You can put the sander up for sale, and truck goes with it.
Truck goes with it.
That's
Yep.
No,
No, I agree, I agree.
I've seen them exactly that way before.
You have to take the truck with the
Mustang
sander.
truck.
Have you listed stuff in that before, Sam?
No, never have, but like I said, I get the magazine every month. And that's where we bought the yellow truck from the advertising out of it, so.
Well, if there's no hurry to get rid of the old one till, because obviously yours new one's going in. So, couldn't we just put it out and say minimum bid starting at $20,000? And if we don't get that locally, then we move on to our next series of events, take
I
it
think,
to auction
I think the
or
minimum bid, I think 20,000 is too high.
too high? Alright.
What do you think that plow's worth, Sam?
I would say 2,000 to 2,500. It's a used plow, let's be real.
So if we put a minimum bid at 14 or 15, that's basically what the truck's worth.
So 15,000 minimum bid? Or do you think, Bill, that we would get substantially more if we went to auction?
Well, you're not gonna get more than Blue Book, but,
You should get less.
sometimes you can get it quicker, and a lot of times selling municipal trucks, people are looking for a deal, not Blue Book.
Yeah.
But the truck is unusual for a municipal truck, it's not, normally you talk about a municipal plow truck, it's been run to death.
Yeah.
That one has not.
Right.
And they got 200,000 miles on it.
Yeah. How many miles on there?
75.
75, yeah, so if you put in a minimum bid of 14, and somebody's gonna say, well, somebody's gonna bid more than 14, and the truck's worth that, more than
Okay.
that. So
Well, I'm just-
somebody will bid 15 to get it.
I think we'll sell it for the minimum easily.
And if you only get 14, you're still out of it, pretty good shape.
Well, for what we get the vehicles for.
Exactly.
you know.
I just, yeah, I'll just.
We kept that truck an extra few years and we decided to buy,
Mhm.
replace the other truck. So Sam's had that truck twice as long.
No.
If we'd have put it up for sale in 3 years, we'd have done 25 on it,
Right.
and it would have went right away at that. So I think if we do 14 now, after being, what is it, 6 years old now, or
It's a 13.
14?
It's a 14, but it was bought in 13.
So we
That-
need
that's
that,
my thought on it, it's-
Need that in the motion?
yeah,
I'll make the motion to
oh, okay.
advertise the 2014 truck with plow at 14,000 minimum bid.
You
Bid opening to be December 11th.
Yeah, let's wait and see what,
Oh, yeah,
let's wait and see what happens.
that's how long our truck's
Right,
gonna
right,
be
yeah.
shop.
What are we doing with the 94 then? We just, like, you want me to advertise it and,
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be worth doing that.
We need that in a motion too?
Yeah,
How much?
let's do separate motions.
Are we gonna, okay.
Let's take motion number 1 on the pickup. Motion is to put that on the market for 14,000 minimum bid. And that's a support. And, but we're not gonna do anything until we find out what's wrong with the new truck, so. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Opposed, motion is carried. And the second one, the 94, 93 or 4 plow truck was Sander.
I'll make that motion.
Are we gonna put a bid or a low price on that, or what are we, how are we gonna advertise that?
let me do some checking and see what it's actually worth. I haven't had a chance to, and I told Brian and I would try to get it to him, and I haven't.
Table that.
All right, we'll table the 94. That's it under action items. The only old business we have is Jennifer.
Old business.
Thank you. There's a compliment in there somewhere. Couple things, we'll talk about the pavilion first. We'll just laugh about it. I do want to apologize, some of you were caught up in a chain of emails and where I wasn't super pleasant with the contractor because I'm quite frustrated with them as far as their timelines and a lot of delays. But it is it's my job to keep you guys informed as to what's going on. And everything in life is about checks and balances, plus and minuses. And they have been officially put on notice that they're subject to liquidated damages if they don't get this job done on time. They have till the end of December to do that, and for whatever reason have been very slow moving. And then to add even more insult to injury on top of the situation, we had some safety concerns, which, you know, immediately raised some red flags for all of us, because despite the fact that the contractor is responsible of any damages that are incurred, it's the village that's here that's still visually at risk, even though unfortunately nobody did get hurt, but I am glad to see the fencing that they did put around the site. And I hope everybody else is satisfied with at least the safety measures that have been put in place. And they were quite quick to respond when that was brought to their attention. So thank you, Sam, for that, and continuing to be my eyes and ears. As far as scheduling, yes, they're slowly picking away. It doesn't really matter what excuse they may have. They're claiming labor, they're claiming subcontractors, you know, whatever. But regardless, they bid on a project with a timeline and constraints. And so we're holding them to it. And they're potentially at risk for liquidated damage. That's not my decision. That ultimately will be the village's, your council's decision whether you want to enforce those or not. Liquidated damages being any day that they're over on schedule, it's $500 a day that's made payable to you guys. If everything is within their contract and your contract with them to enforce that. And that's definitely a plausible situation. They, to this date, have really not provided any valid reason as to their delays that I would consider. You know, there's a couple weeks here and there, but I mean, not to the extent of delay that we are at with this project. I mean, they were awarded it back in August.
Well, wasn't the original completion November 1st?
November 30th.
30.
So I'm kind of giving them a month leeway, because like I said, I have really, there's been very, very negligible situations where we've enforced liquidated damages, just because we all want to be in a situation to play nice. We don't want to, we want to get the project done, we want a quality project, and everybody's busy, and so, you know, we're flexible and agreeable within reason. Within reason. So that's why all these emails have continued to go back and forth, and I kept some of you in that chain, because then we have documentation, for lack of a better, of anything else. There's just documentation. So there's a little bit of wiggle room, but not much as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know if anybody has any specific questions of me at this point. They have picked their block colors, or you guys have picked your block colors, thank you, excuse me. And so blocks to be delivered in about a week. And, you know, just things like that that are really frustrating. That block should have been sitting here on site back in September. There's no reason that they, you know, can claim, and so those are absolutely valid reasons as to, from our perspective, to justify that there's no acceptance of their delay. Other things, sure, I mean, they're trying to figure out the beam styles and trying to figure out what manufacturer, and like, again, there's some flexibility, but other things, it's just they're behind.
They have poured the footings.
Yes, yeah. And as far as weather's concerned, this type of construction, and Lyle, you could speak to, it happens all the time. So I'm not concerned about the weather. We've been out, we've done our DCPs, check bearing capacity on the foundation. We usually come out about once a week and do drive-bys just to see where they're at with progress. We've done concrete testing of the cylinders. So, and we're continuing to review some shop drawings. So all that's taking place. The quality control, I have had no concerns with thus far, but like I said, there hasn't been a whole lot built yet.
It's been easy.
It's been pretty easy. But they are moving along. We have a new, I must have upset the previous site foreman, because now we have a new one. Or Sam did, and he's a lot more amicable to work with, and more of a yes man, and so that's been going better.
What is their rough schedule for it at this point? I know with the weather.
They're slating for December, you know, end of December.
But what are they gonna be, we're gonna be seeing some action going on?
Plumbing
here?
next week,
Plumbing next week, yep, and then like I said, the mason blocks are in another week.
and then the following week pouring the floor,
Yeah.
is what I was
Yeah,
told.
so,
Because I mean, you all know, the further we get into this winter,
Yeah.
the floor is harder to
It
get
is.
poured, and I mean, and
Right.
the warranty on it also.
yeah, yeah, and they have to provide all that, and that's, I mean, and there's accelerants and different admixtures to account for weather conditions. We'll make sure they're gonna be tarping them and protecting them. So, I mean, as far as weather, this type of stuff does, you know, they're building homes all year round, they're building pavilions and pouring concrete all year round. They're just not It gets more challenging when the ground's frozen, which it's not yet.
It's more for you to monitor. and take
Right,
care of,
and
make
we're
sure.
of course not paving anything, but this project didn't have any paving in it, so I don't have any concerns with weather to inhibit anything at this point. But that's an update on that, so I appreciate everybody's patience and, thank you. What I also have and handed out to everyone is, and I don't, there's a lot to digest at the moment, but, this is a copy of the sanitary sewer feasibility study that I just completed, so it's hot off the presses. This was a project that you guys had awarded to us last year to finish up, or earlier this year, I should say. And then, so basically what it is, there's two things. This is the full report, and then this is the condensed version. So, just as a quick, easy read to resort back to. So, but basically how we looked at it was, from your standpoint, you obviously, you have an effluent treatment system that was built in 1989. So the first premise of the report was just to go through and inventory all that infrastructure, the collection system, the pump stations, the condition of the drain field, and identified all that. And just, and then once we went through and did the inventory and kind of identified a life expectancy of everything and what would need to be updated, we also took a look at, what's the reserve capacity of the existing system, which your existing system does have capacity. You're utilizing about 55% of your capacity. You do have ability to add in about another 110 customers on your system. Your current system right now serves 148.5 customers, whereas your water system has 630, which is within the village. So with that being said, there's definitely been interest to expand the sewer system to try to promote growth, businesses, and ultimately what kind of sewer system would accomplish that. So this study took a look at your existing effluent versus if we were to do a full centralized, full sewage treatment plant, which means it has the ability to take full solids. So I went through that complete exercise as far as a comparison between there's three types of systems. Like I said, the first one, if we were to continue your step stag system, which basically every business has a septic tank, solids are retained, and then effluent goes through collection lines to one of 3 pump stations, and from that, one of those 3 pump stations goes to your drain field. And they're pretty low maintenance. It's basically a glorified large-scale drain field that you would have within the township. 2 other options that we looked at was if we wanted to take solids, all of those gravity lines in your current system would have to be upsized to a minimum of 8 inch because they have to be able to handle solids and meet 10 state requirements. Your current gravity lines right now are 6 inch and 4 inch. And then you have some low pressure lines that are 2 and 3 inch. So the collection system would have to be upgraded, and then the treatment system, you'd have 2 options essentially available to you. One would be a lagoon system, very much to like what the city or the village of Bel Air has, that you guys have probably driven through and perhaps smelled at times. Don't tell them I said that, but it's true. And then a mechanical treatment system, which is very similar to what the village of Mansalona has. So, and in this report, I did a comparison to all 3 treatment methods, 3 being the effluent current system you have versus the lagoon or mechanical, which both those treatment plants can take all the solids and effluent. Obviously, if you guys were to go with a full treatment plant, they would have the ability to provide treatment for the entire village. I mean, it can be as big as you want it to be, but it does require, there's a lot of huge upfront capital costs, long-term O&M costs, chemical costs, electricity costs. You need a different operator that has a different type of licensing than what Sam has, or maybe you do have that licensing, which he doesn't. And so there's a lot of other legacy costs that go along with these treatment systems. But again, it's a system that can service your whole village if anything, be expanded to even serve the areas along the lake. Because that's part of the thing too, from an environmental standpoint that we looked at, to at least at a minimum upgrade your existing system or take on these old septic systems that are outside your current sewer system, because most of these systems are within 2,000 feet of the lake. A lot of them are within 2,000 feet of your type 1 water wells. And so when we went through the inventory of your existing drain field and your pump stations, that flagged us as a big concern. Talking with Sam, looking at the condition of your 2 existing pump stations, The concrete in those wet wells, the status of the pumps, the control panel are deteriorating. And they're subject to not only inflow and infiltration from groundwater, but potential exfiltration, which would be sewage leaking out, especially pump station 2 that's very close to, well, it's on the shoreline. And so I'm throwing a lot at you guys, I'm sorry, please, I know it's gonna take a lot to digest this report, and as you guys have questions, I'll be back at next meeting to answer any questions that you have. But I could probably go on and probably, hopefully make sense. But basically, the bulk of the report, I provide costs of the different options, the benefits, the cons with the different options, talk about what service areas you guys could service, the current service area you have, the condition of your current infrastructure, and then ultimately what it comes down to is cost. What are the different methods, what their costs are related to stay with your current system, upgrade it, and what's the benefits with that? Well, of course, you do have some capacity. Your pump stations, your collection lines, all do have reserve capacity to take on more customers. It's just kind of a decision, how many customers ultimately does the village want that to be? Are you guys okay with just taking on another 110, or do you ultimately envision yourself wanting to provide treatment for the entire village? If the latter's the case, then you definitely would want to make a more concerted effort at, well, the drain field system we currently have won't work to do that. And so there's costs associated with each. Obviously, keeping your existing system is the one I recommend. That's your most cost-effective option. Total price for that is about $1.4 million, which basically your drain fields are at or near failing. They're, you know, I mean, that's the hard facts. And you have reserve drain fields at that property, and the biggest, basically, thing that, hanging shad that's been out there is, can we do a new drain field system? Well, DEQ actually let us, because where the new industry standards are is anything over 10,000 gallons per day, drain fields are not an acceptable treatment method. I have email confirmation from our Eagle/DEQ rep that will allow you guys to use your reserve drain fields for your system.
How many drain fields we have right now?
You have 6.
6 now?
Yep.
We have room for
6 more.
6 more.
The same exact square footage to provide the same level of treatment. You are permitted for
45,720.
Yeah, 45,720-ish, and you have reserve drain fields to put that same amount in. Now, what that means is I mean, that's all the bedding, the lateral piping, you know, some accessory updates, but you have the property and the areas reserved, and DEQ, which is quite exceptional that you're in this situation, they will allow you to do that. That's been the one concern.
If we abandon the current 6, as the new ones get used, is that current 6 regenerated?
They do.
And then you can come back to that
That's-
spot
yeah.
down the road?
That is usually how it works, but our concern now with the new regs is with, you guys have heard about PFOA, PFAS, all those things coming out. We won't be able, for certainty, to say that you'll be given this advantage, or given this opportunity next time. So when these drain fields fail in 30 years, will you be given the same opportunity to go back to the old ones? I don't know, because regs keep changing all the time. But you have this opportunity now, which is, we're very appreciative for. Because otherwise, we'd be looking at a price tag of not 1.4 million, but closer to $3 million, because you'd be forced, because they won't allow you to do this anymore. So you at least have the option.
At your best guesstimate, how long do we have before we really need to react on this?
Well, I gotta be, we need to do something short.
So, like,
Quick.
yeah, I mean, it's
We
not,
need to really think about this. We talked about it for the last 2 years and we've done nothing.
I-
the longer we delay, the worse for us.
Basically, how I have it slated in the report is the next 1 to 3 years. And that means getting your ducks in a row, getting your funding. And so so basically that's our recommendation. But again, unless, you know, it's ultimately your decision. If you guys envision and see that you want to have a much larger system, maybe there's interest from, you know, the township. You know, it's hard to say, taking on all these older outlying septic systems in private areas. You know, it's hard to say, but I don't personally see that. But I do see an interest to want to expand some of your service area. And again, these drain fields have, and your infrastructure has the ability to do that with some upgrades.
It's 110 homes is actually quite.
It
quite a
is.
few homes, plus Mr. Brewer decides to build some big condo project.
Yeah. So with that being said, in the report talks about all your different funding options available to you guys to afford this. Knowing this project is moving forward, Larry was aware, I did submit again to Michigan Department of Ag on your behalf to ask for $100,000, because that's the most you can ask for. That's what helped fund some of the sewer study, and that's the most you can ask up to. I asked them, since they were such a supporter of the report, maybe they'll, moving this forward, give us $100,000. So we'll find out in January the status on that, but right now the best funding I'm seeing, because your rates are so low, you're not eligible for grants, to be honest. But USDA 40-year interest rates are the lowest I've ever seen them, and they're at 1.75%. And that's a loan over a 40-year term. That's probably gonna be the best bet you guys will ever get. I've never seen them that low. And so in the report, I do a complete bond schedule of what your annual payments would be if you were to go this route to upgrade your existing infrastructure. Updates meaning replacement of the 2 pump stations, because they're beyond their life expectancy, and replacement of the 6 drain fields, because it's at or beyond its life expectancy as well. Those are the capital improvements I got slated. And you'd be looking at an annual payment of about $50,500 a year over 40 years. And then I also took a look from the financial stuff that Rachel provided me in your budgets, what that looks like to have to adjust your user rates to. And it does make an impact, obviously, to your user rates too, because right now, you guys in your general fund have about 120 in your sewer, and aren't budgeting a whole lot for capital improvement, O&M replacement costs, which USDA requires you to do. So I went through that, plugged your budget numbers in with your current user rate, and you were quite deficient. I mean, you'd potentially be looking at doubling close to 2.5 times your user rate to be able to afford this project, but you've definitely gotten your use out of your components, so. And I say that with the user rates because most people, that's a big chunk to afford, but you have such a small customer base. What I see people do a lot of times is adjust your user rates, but do it in percentage increments every year, so it's a lot more affordable. You might do, $5 every couple of years or a percentage. So that's the bulk of it. I know that's a lot to chew on, so thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. I'm sure we'll have questions in the next meeting. We do have some sidewalk money that we received this year.
You do, yep.
When does that have to be spent by?
Rachel just asked me that by the end of next year.
Okay. Come spring, we'll have something to
Yep.
do.
Yep.
Anybody have anything else for Jennifer? Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. And move and supported to adjourn the meeting, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion has carried. Thank you all for coming.
Where's water and sewer?
Yeah, that's it. Not for much longer.
You
still got one more?
Gosh, I'm gonna try some mine. 40.
Yeah, 1.4.
So.
My pension's capped.